Peanuts. It's a really big subject, and we have quite an array of artifacts about the subject for you to enjoy. And we've enjoyed putting this together and learning about it. Peanuts originated in South America, where they were cultivated over 77,000 years ago, brought to North America via transatlantic slave trade in the 1700s. They evolved from a staple of enslaved communities into global culinary superstar championed by agriculture scientist George Washington Carver. There you can see him. Yeah, peanut butter. Or get into that, that's a big subject. It brings a happy smile. Bits of nuts and Planters, the whole story of Planters peanuts. And look at this. This is a comic book put out by the Peanut Association. They go on this adventure. There's a teacher's guide for it too, but it really has a really nice diagram of the plant. Peanuts are actually the seeds of the peanut plant, and when planted, they grow into a small bush about 18 inches tall. And then the flowers appear on the peanut plant above the ground, and then the flowers turn into pegs, which I didn't know that term. Pegs, which grow away from the plant toward the ground. The pegs enter the soil where they become peanuts that grow underground. And this is an adventure story, into the world of peanuts and the origins. Looking for the gold peanut, and there's a whole teacher's guide for it. So yes, botanically, peanuts are legumes, making them closer relatives to peas, beans, and lentils than to tree nuts. Unlike true nuts, they grow on trees. Peanuts develop in pods underground. We just showed you that. In pods, and there they are. A peanut allergy, by the way, occurs when your immune system mistakenly identifies peanut proteins as dangerous invaders, releasing chemicals like histamine into your bloodstream. One of the most common food allergies. So West African origins, slaves introduced early varieties like the Carolina African runner to American soil. And the culinary roots are found in hearty, slow-cooked ground nut stews, thickening soups, and savory peanut sauces. So yeah, sometimes boiled peanuts referred to as the caviar of the South. We're going to get into that in a minute. And you can see there's the various parts of it, and this is the little seed that grows the plant. Yeah, sorry, that becomes the little plant. This is the whole seed, and that becomes the plant. You can see almost the little leaves sprouting out there, I think. Years ago, they had this product, with a little peanut seed that was ready to grow with the little instructions here. So yeah, the 5 largest peanut producing countries, China seems to lead in everything that we've been talking about, India, USA, Nigeria, and there's the map of the major peanut producing states, and see Georgia is leading it. Georgia has this huge, biggest peanut, I guess, on top of this little tower. Here's various ways that it's cultivated around the world. So the peanut originates in Peru, and they honor with savory sauces with their roasted meats, like salsa de maní in Ecuador, and they're used in traditional moles in Mexico. Southeast Asia, of course, following global trade routes, peanuts became central to Asian cuisine, forming the basic for salty satay sauces. mixed in the salads, and you can see, of course, peanut butter, roasted peanuts, peanut oil, roasting of peanuts in India, and then various dishes. And then look at the Japanese style peanuts here. Type of snack food made from peanuts. These are coated in wheat flour dough and then fried or roasted, also known as Japanese peanuts or cracker nuts. So the Peanut Man, story of George Washington Carver. Here's his booklet, How to Grow the Peanut. So global spread from South America. Spanish and Portuguese explorers took it around, became heavily important, very important in West Africa. And then botanist George Washington Carver promoted peanuts as a crop to rotate with cotton, save southern states soils that were depleted by cotton, and helped economically empower black farmers, and definitely had wartime use. Peanuts were packed, and peanut butter was packed with soldiers in both wars, and we're going to talk about peanut butter in a minute. So yeah, George Washington Carver developed over 300 different products for peanuts, including soaps, cosmetics, plastics, dyes, inks, etc. And then this guy, Amedeo Obici, he was an Italian immigrant in 1906. He bought a little peanut roaster and started his business roasting peanuts in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. And the company grew into a national giant, pioneering vacuum-sealed tins and utilizing its legendary monocled mascot, Mr. Peanut, which we have a whole collection. We'll talk about that. And they had roadside stands in peanuts. They had a vehicle around the country. He then moved his business to be closer to where peanuts were produced, Suffolk, Virginia, which is where the big plant is still today. And then he introduced the nickel lunch, which was a 5-cent bag of peanuts as affordable protein-packed snack. And then the logo, the mascot, there was a contest among local kids, 1916, and the winning sketch was Antonio Gentile from Suffolk. He was 13-year-old. He submitted a drawing of basically anthropomorphic peanut with arms, legs, and the cane. He won $5, grand prize. And then some commercial artists polished it up, and you can see the various transitions of his image to, and then they produced all sorts of promotional material. This was a personal story of Mr. Peanut and his experience teaching kids about peanuts and the peanut process. There were coloring books, etc. Considered one of the great advertising mascots of all time. And then Steve Vasilakos, here he is. He sold peanuts, roasted peanuts outside the White House, and he became a fixture for the many presidents came out in those days and bought peanuts from him. He talks about how Calvin Coolidge was often a regular, and Calvin Coolidge claimed that by visiting with Steve regularly, he stayed in touch with the common person. Steve was so popular that during the war, he raised $50,000 in war bonds. When somebody bought a war bond, they would get a free bag of peanuts. So a real unusual, wonderful immigrant story. And his whole thing was the second anniversary of Italy's invasion of his native Greece. He went with the slogan, "Make a monkey out of Mussolini." Great story there. So the invention of peanut butter. Incas were making paste out of peanuts, but Modern peanut butter was popularized in the late 19th, 20th century, and then it became a military ration for the soldiers in World War II, and the whole peanut butter and jelly sandwich became a national staple. Look at all these brands about 1920. Look, they came in these cans. We're going to show you one of the cans in a minute that peanut butter used to come in. And then I love the Squirrel brand peanut butter. Got a kid riding a squirrel. So yeah, Canadian chemist obtained the first U.S. patent for peanut paste using a heated process using heated surfaces. And then Kellogg, of the cereal guy, came up with making it more digestible. And then the mass commercialization. Joseph Rhodesfield, 1921, chemist, patented a partial homogenation process, and that led to spread to be shelf stable. And the creation of Peter Pan, 1928, Skippy in 1932, and Jif, 1958. There's these kids eating it, and then it was considered a simple solution to the school lunch problem. The mom could just put some bread and jam on a piece of bread, send it back to the kids. Look at this very early ad for peanut butter. This was back in 1898. So yeah, we're just talking about the origin of Skippy peanut butter, and they did lots of advertising. So they were saying, Skippy for breakfast. It's not just a nutty idea. And then, of course, promoting Skippy peanut butter for lunch. Here's an early Skippy character. And then boiled peanuts. They trace their heritage to West African culinary traditions. These enslaved people, they were originally known as goober peas, derived from the African word. Today, the salty, comforting snack remains a cherished staple of the American South, and then they learned how to boil them. And this became a cultural symbol of the South, especially Alabama. And Dothan, Alabama, which produces a lot of peanuts, has considered the first description in public of boiled peanuts, 1907. So these are salted green peanuts boiled in brine, and you can see that going here, during the summer months. Peanut capital of the world is what they claim. There's all these roadside stands when you travel around this part of Alabama. You'll see all of these folks boiling up and selling the boiled peanuts. And I learned that the peanut variety that they use is actually grown in New Mexico. So that was an interesting connection that I had with all this subject. Boiled peanuts. And Georgia leads the country in peanut production, and Jimmy Carter, 38th president, was a peanut farmer. He grew up on a peanut farm. Now his hometown, Plains, Georgia, is now a National Historic Park, and a lot of the places associated with him, the stores, his family's farm, and their peanut warehouse, are all stops on this tour. There's this big smiling peanut statue. They also do, when you visit there, you get boiled peanut demonstrations, and you can see the giant peanut statues, etc. So he grew up. Yeah, so he grew up on a 360-acre farm. Peanuts were the major crop. 5 or 6, he was selling peanuts down in the little village. Roasted peanuts, here he is. He came back after the Navy to try to save the farm, got back into the peanut business, and then got into politics. I think he was governor first of Georgia. The peanut business survived because they were selling seed peanuts, and you can see a couple of their products, their bags for this product. And then he ran for president, and campaign workers would give out little packets of peanuts with his Jimmy Carter for president. You can see the grin will win. All these wonderful buttons. America needs Carter. a man of the sauce. So you can see how he really promoted himself with peanuts, and his followers and supporters traveled the country. They were known as the Peanut Brigade. When he was elected, they had a big Peanut Brigade party. 500 Georgian supporters were given boiled peanuts on the White House grounds. And so, yeah, you can see this is a National Historic Park now. There's a walking tour of the plains and all of the various locations. And you can go into the Plains Trading Post, where this guy has something like 1,100 different Carter pins and other political memorabilia for sale. And you can see some of them here. That big grin. Look at this. He sure did have a big grin. Look at this. The New York Times Magazine featured him with peanuts. And here's a recipe for peanut brittle, which was one of his favorites. You can see different peanut brittle images here. Hard confection made of flat, broken pieces of hard cracked sugar candy embedded with roasted peanuts. And there's another picture of him with a crop. So let's look at some of our artifacts here. Lix's mother or his children said Mrs. Peanut is a flatter. I quite forgot to salt the butter. The little peanut children said, why then Mama will salt the bread. Here's a booklet put out by the peanut industry of the U.S. all about how peanuts grow. This is something. So here's a little peanut butter doll. Here's the Jif, one of the major brands. Another brand was the Beech Nut Packing Company, and where peanut butter is made, they're the workers making and putting the peanut butter into the jars. They were entertained by a piano player. I love that. And of course, Peanuts, one of the most popular cartoon characters. Nothing really about Peanuts, but a reference to little kids. Here's that tin I told you about. This is how peanut butter used to come in these big tins. And those kids are, and then Reese's peanut butter cups, very famous chocolate and peanut butter mixture. How about this? Peanuts and other nutty polkas. Happy Louie and his polka band. This is an ancient Peruvian vessel. You can see the little peanut person flute player. And this old 1920s image of the peanuts growing on the ground. Here's the piano player there. Teeny weeny peanut butter. The Monarch Company. Look at this. There's another one of those squirrels. Look at all the going on, the action of making the peanut butter. And there's a whole story. The teeny weenies and their secret. This is some of the ways they used to market peanut butter. Look at this. This is drying peanuts, stacks of peanuts in the old days. And of course, peanut now is a very modernized, mechanized system. Here's the Jimmy Carter walking in his peanut field. Look at this locket. A little, very tiny peanut. I don't know if you can even see that. And then look at this, another souvenir, all sorts of souvenirs from Carter. And then we have lots of Mr. Peanuts. This, you could make your own peanut butter. You could put the peanuts in there and crank it, and crushed peanuts would come out there. Well, that was famous Mr. Peanut. Here's a Mr. Peanut metal bank. Here's a plastic one. This huge jar would be holding all the peanuts. Different kinds here. This is kind of a funny thing. I'm not sure what it has to do with frogs. This is one of those stress balls. Here's New York World's Fair 1939 souvenir. Peanut dishes. This is kind of a handmade peanut dispenser. So yeah, let's see if we can get this going here. So this would be full of a lot of peanuts. I don't know this. Yeah. This is lovely. Look at this spoon. Mr. Peanut spoon. So I guess you would spoon your peanuts out like that. Look at this. This is a promotional material put out by Planters. American Freedom of Individual Enterprise and Initiative. And this shows, there's the birthplace. That's the first factory. Executive offices. And look at the way it grew. This huge business in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Then they had also Suffolk, Virginia, San Francisco, Toronto offices. The biggest name in peanuts. This actually was a historic and educational paint box. So I said, remember I said how much the company was really into promotional materials. And yeah, look at promoting buy U.S. savings bonds, helping kids be patriotic, Christmas in America, land of the free, cocktail peanuts. Look at this. And then lots of history about the U.S. Very patriotic, helping kids understand the whole political process, voting, good citizenship. Here's a peanut seller with his peanut costume. Get attention. Here's a 1939 peanut party game. 10 hilarious party games for all ages. Latest wrinkle in entertainment. And so you had all these, the peanuts and these little spoons, and you had these directions for 10 different games. And you would, one of them was be carrying peanuts on one of these paddles across the room. And then they were sort of trying to move the peanut across the finish line with those little paddles. And then you would be throwing peanuts at somebody's head with one of these hats on. So yeah, peanut party game outfit, 1939, as I said, yeah. And this is Peanut Panic, a motorized peanutty escape game. So these little peanut characters are trying to escape nuts here. This guy's trying to collect the peanuts so they can make peanut butter, I guess. So you would flip this thing and you could get, these guys would get to advance to the finish line over here before this guy would catch you. And I'm going to try to get this started. See if I can get this started. Nope, hold on. All right, let's see if I can get him going. We're on a little track here. He sometimes needs a little shove here. Oh, he's caught all of them. Look at that. All right. Well, they didn't escape the peanut guy. Another fun thing, each player would try to put one peanut on, and then it was the player. Then if you got too many peanuts on one side, they would tip over. Yeah. So a little bit of peanut history. Actually, quite a lot of peanut history here, and we have fun with our peanuts. It's an important crop. It's an important part of culinary history of the world, really, and we hope you enjoy visiting with us on this. If you like these shows, you can subscribe. They're all on YouTube. YouTube is free to subscribe. You can leave us messages. All of this collections that we've been showing are all available. Find a new home, permanent home, to carry on the work. By the way, we've been using toys and games and fun stuff like this to get the attention of audiences of all ages so that we can tell important stories about food, food origins, the history, the future of food, and that's what we're all about here. So enjoy your peanut products, and we'll see you again the next time.